advice would you give a beginner, someone like me who is just, average? I don't know a lot, but what would you tell us to do to be more creative?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question. So I am a foundations instructor at LSU. I received my BFA at SCAD, and I'm also an MFA candidate, and I'm graduating in the spring. And with my MFA, I also teach as an instructor of record. So, and being a foundations instructor, it means that I'm getting people who have the interest in art, but they don't know where to go. And I think foundations is a really good place for you to understand, like, I guess for the new beginner to understand how to fail forward, because beginners are usually so afraid and failure adverse. They don't want to mess anything up. They want to be perfect. And my advice would be, the first painting, the first drawing, the first photograph you ever make, it's probably not going to be that great. And if it's not that great, okay, how do we make it better? And so you continue to talk about it, continue to workshop, whatever it is you are interested in. There's always room to improve it. And likely, if you just start, you're going to continue to improve. I just think that, thinking about art as in terms of good or bad really takes away that room for play and the room for exploration. So I would say, don't worry about, not having a certain skill set, because you don't learn it overnight. Our strokes of genius come from doing and making. So my advice is get your hands dirty, make 100 bad paintings, then and then maybe like one of those you'll have some big breakthrough. Probably by like your 30th painting you'll have a big breakthrough, and then you make 70 more bad paintings, and then after that you'll have all these ideas that you've already gotten out of the way, and then you can continue to go forward. So I think just start making. I wouldn't worry about it being anything too wonderful. I think being confident enough to fail and learn from those failures it's a great place to be, because once you're past that failing forward stage, then it becomes a little like you feel like you're in hot water, like, oh, now I really have to be now I can't, stay in
you
this.
have to bring your A game, huh?
Yeah.
So let's see. Where do you get your inspiration? Does it evolve if you're working on something and you have an idea come to you for the next one, or just life, or do you, how do you get there?
I feel like probably where you are in your stage of life probably has a big component to that. For example, I think what I'm going to find inspiration from in a year or two from now, after I've graduated, is probably going to be a little bit different than now. Because, I'm in school, and it's really like this factory that, you turn into like a little art factory where you're always making, always churning out something. So the inspiration comes lately from being aware of artists, looking at what's happening in the art world, trying to fit in as much reading material as I can. Even like small things like Instagram, where people are actively talking about art, actively posting their own art, and trying to fit into that kind of, that sort of world. I think right now is a big inspiration. I think something that always has driven me is just, not necessarily the how to be a good artist or how to learn how to paint, because I think that used to be my biggest inspiration. It's like, I want to learn how to do this thing, and now I'm not too worried about being technically proficient. I want to make something that is almost more emotionally mature, something that, you know, speaks on more of a psychological level rather than a like academic, technical, efficient, you know, language. I want to be in a, like, I guess a canon of what feels like painting should be in this moment. So I think right now my drive is like, how do I submerge myself with all of these other artists thinking about the same kinds of things, and how do I make my own unique voice ring out? So maybe it's I don't know. I think right now it's very goal oriented. Like, I want to make X amount of paintings in a year, and then you know, add 2 the next year, and then add 2 to that the next year. So I think right now I'm kind of in like almost like a student factory mode brain, where I'm like, I need to make this many things, and I have, you know, a show, and I need to be applying for shows, and I need to get as many under my belt. So I think a lot of my inspiration.
That's quite a few. You have quite a few under your belt, don't you? I'm ending with Ireland and France. You've been lots of places.
Yeah, I think I've been really, really fortunate to have a lot of these opportunities, and they've been wonderful. I think another big thing for artists who are, you know, I guess maybe trying to learn about how to be an artist, or they're novice, or they're young artists but the very eager artists. I think traveling is like a big part of you know, situating yourself into the art world, because there's so many different ways of being an artist, and there's so many different medium and technique. And I think finding sort of your tribe early on, like in who is interested in what I'm interested in, it's a really big deal, and it makes you feel like you have a sense of community, and makes you feel like your work actually matters. Yeah, I think traveling is like one of the best ways to you know, to really further whatever your art is. And even if like it doesn't directly relate, I mean, if you just go somewhere new, you're always going to learn or have a kind of experience from that. It's just natural. It's always worthwhile to do.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that you did your bachelor's in fine arts in a different place than you have your master's. Mm-hmm. So is that part of what's been so helpful, to have different people in the teaching realm, as well as different scenes, different places you've been, and people you've learned from?
Yeah. You know, I was considering going to get my master's at SCAD, where I got my undergrad again. And then my, you know, my mentors were like, you can do that, but it's the same voices you heard for 4 years. Go find somebody new, someone else to look at your artwork, and maybe a different state, or, you know, a different environment, because you're just going to learn so much more. And, you know, LSU has been pretty wonderful. I think almost, every MFA, you're expected to complete your MFA and be an instructor of record, and then they waive tuition for everybody, which is amazing. So if you're in the MFA program, it's small, selective, probably get like, I think they alternate every year from like accepting maybe like 1 person into the department to maybe even 3, right? So it's pretty small. And there's like a couple different departments. So I'm in painting and drawing, and then there's sculpture and printmaking. So they're pretty selective with who they let in, because, you know, they want to be able to foster that kind of, you know, learning environment where you're not stressed out about, you know, student loans. And, you know, so I've had a great time in LSU. Can't speak highly enough about it. I'm sorry. You cut out again. Maybe this needs to be a written interview.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I imagine it's helpful to be able to teach because you really have to be on your game for that part. And then, it's a different level of learning. And
Oh
it's been
yeah. Say that last part again. I heard a different level of learning and then you cut out.
yeah, yeah. Where do you see yourself in a few years from now?
Oh, well, what I'm thinking, so that's actually been heavily on my mind. I want to
Stress
be
you
able
out.
to,
I don't want to stress you out.
no, you're not. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot actually. So I am actively looking for opportunities. I'm actively looking at um, places that have long artist residencies. There's a lot of schools that do 1 to 2 year programs where you teach, you are like the in-house artist, and you're able to use facilities and teach, and they usually set you up with some sort of living situation, but you are their like show-offy person. They're like, look, this is our artist in residence. And those kinds of opportunities are really awesome, but I think they've become a little bit far and few with our current pandemic. Luckily, I just I just got accepted at for an artist in residence and lecture program that's only 3 weeks. It's not a huge prolonged thing.